I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, because it makes me richer. But like the yin and yang of life, everything has opposite sides. So everything that rich dad taught me was opposite of what my poor dad was a school teacher, good people, but they don't know anything about money.
Right.
So on one side, my poor dad's always saying, work hard, go to school, get a job, save money, and get out of debt. On the opposite side, the yang side, don't do that, So when I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was about the opposites. That's all it was. And the rich don't work for money. The richest people in the world don't work for money. But the average person, that's not part of their consciousness. So you look at Steve Jobs. His paycheck was $1 a year.
Right. Same with Bezos as well, right?
Yeah, they don't want money. So the reason I say and I do and I speak and I teach is kind of just the yin and the yang. You got to see the other side too. Because so many people, I don't know about here, but the economy is pretty bad in America, and they're rushing back to school. Got to be stupid. School teaches you nothing about money. There's fewer and fewer jobs, and taxes are higher. Why would you do that? If you save money, you're taxed. You work hard, you're taxed. And you put your money in a retirement plan, you're taxed. That's not that intelligent, but that's what they teach you in school. So it's opposite. And that's why I come up on stage and I talk about the opposite, just to open your mind a bit.
You said that education is not putting stuff in, but pulling stuff out of your brain. I have a 10-year-old now, and I'm looking around London for her secondary education. I'm looking at all these schools, and then I hear what you say, and I'm thinking, are they going to teach her the wrong things? Should people not go to school, or should they go to school questioning what they're being taught?
Well, that's the most important thing. Question it. You see, if you just assume all schools are equal and all schools will do a good job, you're not doing your job as a parent. Obviously, you should question and then ask yourself, what does my child need to learn? So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they're not learning what my rich dad taught me, It's like, I don't want a job. Can you imagine being in high school? I grew up in the 60s going, but I don't want a job. They go, and it violates all the Puritan beliefs. You got to work hard, you got to be a tax-paying person, but I don't want to do that. And in most schools, that type of philosophy or thought is not allowed. I got spanked, scolded, thrown out of school for having what they call radical ideas. But again, I said, Steve Jobs made $1 a year, Bezos $1 a year. I don't want a paycheck. And I'm not giving the answer. I'm just saying, why don't they want a paycheck? And that's when you start to learn. When you ask the question, you start to learn. And as a parent, you got to ask yourself, what are they going to teach my child?
Yeah.
Will they damage my child or will they educate my child? Education comes from the Greek word educe. Educe means to draw out of a person. But what schools too oftentimes do is they put in, not draw out.
So they're kind of giving her a subconscious message that you're doing all this training so you can work for someone someday. And
that's what I think.
Right, and buy a house.
I didn't want to do that.
Right, okay. And buy a house that's not an asset, but a liability.
Yeah.
And work up these school loans, and then you pay them off. And it's almost, I don't know, I guess it's not a slave mentality, but it really is this.
It's a paycheck mentality.
A paycheck mentality.
Look at the other side. They say, don't get into debt. I'm in debt up to my eyeballs.
Right. Because as a businessman, you want some leverage.
Well, there's good debt and bad debt. See, bad debt is debt I have to pay for. So my house, I have to pay for it. So it's bad debt. Mortgage is bad debt. At the same time, I have about $300 million in debt. But it's good debt because my tenants pay it off. My landlord. So I'll say it again. So good debt is debt that somebody else pays off for me.
Right.
And so that was the lesson of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the way my rich dad began teaching me when I was age 9 was just playing Monopoly. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel.
Love that game.
Yeah, today I own red hotels, and I go back home, and my family, they're all school teachers. They say, oh, Robert, have you found a job yet? I go, no. Oh, too bad. You see, they can only see one side of the yin and the yang.
Right.
The rich are the other side. My point is, the reason it's hard for the poor and middle class to get rich is because the philosophy, the thoughts, the actions, the education is opposite. I don't save money, I borrow money. Okay, once you understand that, I go, why would he do that? Well, if I can borrow money, I never have to say I can't afford it. You know, I can afford anything I want as long as I can borrow for it. So debt is good, but it takes education.
Okay. You said once that inside every one of us is a poor person. Inside every one of us is the one that goes to the supermarket and thinks, I better buy the cheaper this or buy the cheaper that.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. And
like I'm in this hotel.
Right.
And they want $8 for a bottle of water. I said, I'd rather drink tap water than pay $8. You know, I mean, and I can afford the $8. It's just insulting that they want $8 for a bottle of water.
Right. But you're saying that mentality can hurt you as well because it puts you in a frame of conserving my income as opposed to going out.
It's just being conscious.
Okay.
You know, being conscious of who is talking at this moment. Is it the poor person?
Right.
So like it really was last night, my wife and I got checked in our hotel room and said, want a bottle of water. I wanted to pay $3 for the bottle of water, but not $8. You know, so there was a battle going on between the rich person and poor person inside of me. Finally, the poor person won. So I'm going to drink tap water, even though it kills my health. And I go through the same problems that anybody else does.
Right. And then that poor person is the conservative person, the person that doesn't want to take risks, the one that wants to conform.
That's more the middle class.
Oh, that's middle class. Okay.
So the middle class person middle class believes in a big paycheck, good education, job security, and a pension. You know, so they, like when I was a Marine pilot, most of my friends stayed in the Marine Corps, not because they loved the Marine Corps, but it was a good pension. And I said, well, that's not very spiritual, you know. Or most school teachers want the steady paycheck. Now, my point of view is, psychically, that's what they broadcast onto a child.
Right.
So if the teacher believes in a steady job, a steady paycheck, and no risk, and job security, any idea a child may have, like your child may say, well, I don't like that idea. They get crushed.
Right.
Okay, that's the risk.
Okay. And also subconsciously they're getting this message that these people are happy to kind of have these jobs for life and collecting these paychecks and yeah.
And then when I say, well, Steve Jobs gets paid $1 a year, it doesn't compute because it's not inside their little box.
Right, right.
You know, outside the box thinking, well, that's not possible, you know.
Right. You know, you go around the world, you give up and you give these huge talks. I know your parents always said it was important for you to be of service. And is that something that's always on your mind?
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have to do this. I mean, you could stay in Arizona, you know, you've got your books and everything. Do you feel like that's something we all need to do?
I don't like to speak to all people, but I do think that service is important. Like I served the Marine Corps, not because I wanted to fight in Vietnam, but because it was service, you know. And once I got there, I'm glad I went there, but I'll never do that again. You know, the U.S. government lied to us in Vietnam.
Okay.
And at that point, I said, I'm out of here.
And you knew that at the time, or you realized that later?
I realized that there because I was a top secret officer. And once I could see the truth coming across the messages, because they're lying to us.
Okay.
You know, we weren't there for the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese. We were there because of oil. So if you look at Vietnam today, there's a war on in Vietnam yet, and it's for the oil rights off of Vietnam. That's why Royal Dutch Shell is there. That's where Conoco is there. That's why those guys are there. We fought for oil. Always remember that all wars are about money.
Money, right, and power.
Yeah, well, money and war. Look at ISIS. I think that's kind of, you know, I don't agree what they're doing. But they took what we know, they captured the oil fields, which we're bombing right now, and then they buy our weapons and they come kill us. So I say, well, they're just doing what we do to them.
Right.
You know, they're not stupid.
Would you say that a lot of this generation has this entitlement mentality where they kind of expect things, expect the job and expect the paycheck? What do we do about this generation? You know, should they go to the military, or how do we get people to kind of snap out of that entitlement frame?
That's hard to say. The entitlement mentality is alive and well in America. Before, it used to be the American dream.
Right.
You know, you're from San Diego and all that.
Yeah.
It was the American dream.
It's in your blood, you know, when you grow up there.
And today in America is the entitlement dream. You know, that I'm going to get somebody to take care of me.